Hey, what's up? I'm finally getting around to recording my review of MindsEye. I posted this, I don't know, several days ago, I think. Let me see. I don't remember when it was a little while ago, not too long. Oh, June 12th. I didn't realize it's been like a couple weeks already. Damn. Or a week. A little over a week. Just hadn't been in the mood. Hadn't been in the mood is all. But so here's my review. I'm gonna read this whole thing. I linked to it on. I shared a few, like I think several MindsEye racing recordings recently, just to show some gameplay. And I picked racing just because they're a lot of fun to me. I really like the races. I wish there was more. I'm still planning to build, but I just haven't been in the mood for that either. Also, the build needs to be fixed up besides the game, so I'm kind of waiting on that a little. Build mode also has its own little issues. They're very minor, but generally it's really impressive, like really cool. I've been in it and I'm like, this is amazing. But one of the first issues I had was that, and it could be my own fault, I hadn't set any checkpoints yet or anything because I didn't know what it was. I was just practicing and testing and checking it out. And I hit the play button to try my mission real quick just to see how it works. How does it switch transition between like what you're building and what you play? So I hit the play button and then the game crashed, and then I loaded the game back up and I booted my what I was building or whatever. I hadn't done a lot yet or anything, so it wasn't a big deal. I was really glad I hadn't spent hours on it because it would have sucked. I booted the game up, and when I loaded my arc, they call it arcs, it's your missions that you're building. I loaded it and my character was in the middle of the city, nowhere close to where I was creating the mission, nowhere close to what I was doing. And I was like, okay, that's dumb. So I was thinking maybe if I had actually put a checkpoint, like a checkpoint, player point, whatever, spawn point kind of a thing, maybe it would have put me where I was supposed to be. But yeah, so that was one issue I had, and I had even posted about it. I think I posted that one on Reddit. And finally got a response like a couple of days ago. They were saying one of the devs or whoever it was, but it's the representative of the company, said we know it's we're working on a fix for that and stuff like that. So that was cool. So there are little minor things in the build mode as well. It's missing some assets that it's supposed to have. There's categories, or maybe they're just the categories are empty, but the assets are there because there's like a list all assets to build with and whatever. But they're missing in certain categories. They just don't show up at all. So I don't know if they're fully missing or they're just only in the all section. But anyways, yeah. But build mode seems really cool, and I'm just waiting on updates. I don't expect anything out of it, with the way things have been going with the sheeplenet. Hopefully I'll remember how to explain that one later. It's just a word I came up with. I could explain it now, but I just want to read my damn review. I already talked too much about nothing. I like the build mode. I wanted to say that real quick. I don't think I talk much about it in my review. I didn't mention it. So I'm going to start my review right now. I have an introduction to my post to the review before I get into the actual review. I think it was the game director that described MindsEye as a cinematic experience. I couldn't remember exactly what he had said. Yeah, there was like this overhyped headline, and it's like this, innovative cinematic experience and whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. He also added some stupid overhype, but whatever. It totally is a kick-ass cinematic action experience. It's like a mix between Uncharted and Watch Dogs, which is great. It's also comparable to GTA, of course, but even with the many hours I've played of GTA 4 and 5, I just don't give them much thought. They're not my favorites is all. I tend to compare games to my favorites. It also reminds me of games like Max Payne. If you enjoy action movies and haven't seen 6 Underground, go check it out. It's great. I've done that in a couple posts I've made, just like referring to 6 Underground real quick, specifically related to like action games like MindsEye, because it's an action movie. And it's really good. It's actually really good. It was one of the Jerry Bruckheimer or Michael Bay. I forget which one. They used to make movies together, and now they're like on their own and stuff. But it was cool. It also has Ryan Reynolds in it. It's actually a really entertaining action movie, though. Pretty cool. Anyways, for MindsEye, I like the sci-fi and fantasy side of MindsEye's story, but I don't like the nonsensical rich guy fighting a corrupt politician aspect. It's ludicrous. What's especially funny is how the entire story is about AI controlling everything, DNA altering, chips and brains, and robots being police, military, and the normal workers of society. But at some point in the game, they briefly act like AI surveillance is a bad thing. I was like, "Are you gotta be kidding me, man?" I was cracking up when that happened because it's part of the story, and they have all this stuff, all of it, all this stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, but the AI surveillance," and I was like, "What?" That's one of the. I just thought it was funny, man. All right, so they're running the whole 2030 agenda while pretending they're the good guys, which is true enough to life, I suppose. We can call that funny. They also, of course, push the whole anybody that isn't the government with a gun is a terrorist. The writing is a bit wacky and sometimes dumb or complete bullcrap, but overall I found the story to be very entertaining and the voice acting all around is excellent. Yeah, it was all of it, all of the voice acting. I thought anyways, I liked it a lot. All of them, I thought all of them did a great job. And I don't like every actor I don't like the black chick, man. I think she's terrible. Not because she's black, to be clear. I just think she's a bad actor, man. There are plenty of people I think are bad actors and she's one of them. I don't know why she's popular. I'm just like, why? Just why? Anyways, but the voice acting was really great. You'll always see streamers or YouTubers making montages of a random ass bug and act like it's the whole game, and then their idiot sheeple followers just start repeating the same exact crap all over the internet without actually trying the game themselves. And even if they do try the game themselves, they've already convinced themselves that they have to hate it no matter what, then brag about how they refunded it so it just doesn't matter. They're all very, very stupid. It sucks when a bug happens, but a bug doesn't make a game suck. And that's literal. I don't think what you want, but I've seen it for many different games for many years. The literal regurgitation of hate fest that, and then you go talk to these players. If you ever do, you go in their comments, forums, and whatever, you go talk to them about the game. They haven't played it. You can tell just in the way they talk about it, the way they answer you, asking questions, this and that, and they don't have answers. They just repeat what they're told. That's it. That's all, man. Some people some people do hate it, legitimately. They don't like it, that's fine. I'm talking about the ones that literally regurgitate. I know there are people that played through it, don't like it, they hated it, they had issues, but not just the issues, they just don't like the game, they thought it was crap, right? That's fine. Those are not the people that I call morons and sheeple. I think there's stupid buttholes and whatever, but I can understand if somebody doesn't like a game. That's fine, man. I don't need everybody to like a game. I don't care. It's just, 90% of these people that comment on it and spit hate constantly don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're ridiculous, brainless zombies. Flat out. All right. The rest of this post includes categories about the good, the bad, general thoughts and feature requests, and final thoughts. I almost never use the scan feature that highlights enemies. I kept forgetting it even existed, and I prefer not using it anyways. It does help for the more difficult missions. Yeah, I did keep forgetting about that. There's a scan thing that, where you can highlight enemies like within range or whatever. And I don't like that in games. I just don't like it. Like I'd rather be more immersed into the actual world. It's easy mode, right? When you just highlight enemies like the Assassin's Creed games and Far Cry, where you highlight enemy, you put those borders around and markers and all that. And I don't hate those or anything. I just prefer not having it. Like if I can disable it, I do. I disable that stuff. So I just didn't use the ability in this game. All right, first category is the good. The music and this is kind of just a jumble of things that I didn't try to professionally put this together in like specific categories, right? But the good, the bad, and all that. So it's a little mixed up. The music in MindsEye is excellent. The gameplay is action-packed with epic car chases along with the normal on-foot combat. They had some there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6. I forget exactly how many. There's not a whole lot of car chases and stuff, but it was cool. There were plenty. It was plenty of car chases and a lot like shooting and tailing, which was cool. I liked it. I like that the ammo clip is infinite in the car chase. I'm sure some people don't like that the ammo is infinite in the clip, but I do. Specifically on those types of missions. And I can like it for regular gameplay. Sometimes I feel like reloading is just kind of pointless. But I especially like it in car chases like this, because in this game, in MindsEye, those car chases are kind of long. They're kind of long. So having that unlimited clip is pretty cool. Also, unless you specifically try to target the tire. Like if you just try to shoot down a car and blow it up just by unloading bullets on it, it takes longer than if you were to like shoot out the tires, which makes sense. But it's cool stuff. Anyways, there's a few car tailing missions I enjoyed as well. One specific tailing mission was a bit more difficult because the AI was a whole lot faster, and I noticed it right away. That car took off, dude. I was like, wait, what? When did this happen? Because it was faster than normal, like from driving through traffic and even the other tailing. It was like, wait a second. But it was doable and not that much of a problem. It was just noticeably a bit more difficult and odd. And I have seen complaints on the forums about that. It's pretty funny to me. Just funny. There were a few missions in the game that other people complain about that took me a second try. Like the CPR mission, second try. That race, that was a big complaint from other players. Second try. But anyways, all right. There are some very horrible checkpoints when you die and you can't skip cinematics, so you're forced to rewatch them when reloading specific checkpoints, which sucks, but overall, most of the checkpoints felt well balanced. They weren't so often that I'd feel like it doesn't matter when I die, but they also were not too far apart in most cases, so I wasn't having to redo too much of a mission. Yeah, so a little balance there, because I did think the checkpoints were pretty well done, mostly. I like that Jacob becomes visibly bloody as you lose health. Of course, it also disappears as you regain health, so it's a bit on the magical side, and some people might complain about realism or whatever, but I thought that was cool. I like that. I like that it gets all bloody, and then like it just vanishes as you regenerate. You know, I like it. I think it's cool, especially the animation of it. That said, oftentimes I couldn't tell how low my health was mid-combat. So this, I didn't go back and edit this and update it because I realized that it is kind of buggy. But yeah, at like some point during my playthrough of this, I stopped getting a health indicator around the border of my screen. I wasn't getting that blood effect and stuff, and I just kept dying, and I was like, I didn't know I was dying, like what the hell? So a little buggy, and I don't know if there's a specific like story part where it's done, but almost through at least the second half of the game, I almost never saw the blood around the edges of the screen and stuff, so that was terrible. Let's see, I felt like some of the weapons enemies had to do a lot more damage than the others, and I couldn't ever really predict that. You do run with low health in general though, so running and gunning in the open is not really an option. This is a cover-based shooter. I did finally, while I was in build mode, I noticed one of the robots, one of the enemy types, which I guess you don't run into too often in the game. They're a special enemy type. They're deadly as hell. They're super dead. I put like, I was making a level. I want to make a fun level that I have an idea for. It's putting a bunch of robots in it, and it was too like it's just impossible. I put like too many of those. I put like 10 or 15 of those robots in it, and it was just insta death, man. And I was like, oh, this must be a tough one, right? But I couldn't always tell, like while playing through the game. I knew some levels were harder than others, like obviously, but I couldn't tell why exactly or where it was coming from. But yeah, there are some tougher robots that just kick your butt really hard, tougher than the regular robots too. And the regular robots are tougher than the humans, so kind of funny. Let's see. While driving, there's a decent variety of camera angles. They have some pretty cool camera angles. I like them. It's too bad they don't have the cinematic one that GTA has. They have like one of those like low tire camera angle ones that's in the cinematic camera in Grand Theft Auto, but it's just static. Like you can pick that camera angle, but there's no when you enter it. As far as I could tell, because I didn't leave it go on long enough, but I left it on long enough to automatically switch if it was going to. But yeah, you switch it to that and it just sticks on that view. Maybe it's supposed to be cinematic and bugged out, I don't know. But the camera angles while driving are pretty cool though. They have your, they do have like a flat first person without the hood, and then they have one with the hood. I don't think there was a dashboard if I remember right. I enjoyed the environment and most of the level design. I played on mouse and keyboard and found everything to feel smooth and great. Yeah, it feels great on mouse and keyboard, like normal. Like what I would expect from a game that's supposed to play on a keyboard and mouse. All great. So that I say that because I played so many games on keyboard and mouse that do feel much different. They feel like that wasn't meant to be played on key. Not just the keybinds that they make you play with, and you fortunately half those games you can rebind them, but it's not just that. It's actually the way that when you press these keys and how the game interacts with it. Like there's a lot of times it's like really clumsy and clunky and slow, and unresponsive, and it's just all kinds of weird. So in this game, keyboard and mouse, very nice. Analog control with the thumbsticks is always going to be better for more precise movements, but I like and prefer being able to play well on a mouse and keyboard. A couple of the mini games, like the CPR one, were a little rough, but I think it's just because they were designed a little more sensitive when it comes to the motions. You just have to be a little more slow with your movement, and it works just fine. I'm going to check something real quick. And then I had a note here. I'm wondering if they might patch a sensitivity change for these, and then I added a part later after it was patched. It is patched, but I haven't replayed that part yet, so I don't know exactly how different it is and in the balancing of that sensitivity with the CPR mission. That one I think took me 2 tries as well. Yeah, this took me 2 tries because when it starts getting wavy, it was hard to follow because I was just over correcting. I was way over correcting. That's why I mentioned just go a little slower, and it's fine. I love the brief tiny arcade mission. It was super cute and fun. I won't say more because I think of it as a baby spoiler. It's such a brief little tiny thing in the game, and it's this little arcade game, and it's neat. I was like, oh, that's neat. And it's only in there once, which is kind of weird. And I can understand a lot of people thinking the game's incomplete. I like it for what it is, but a lot of things could be improved upon, which we'll get into. I do have the bad section as well. The loading times in MindsEye impressed me very much. Yeah, dude, I was really noticeable, especially after a few screens were loading. I was like, whoa, this is badass. So I can't remember many times when it took longer than 10 seconds to load up, 30 seconds max, which is usually just when you first boot the game and it goes through the loading the world and the, I forget the other thing it's called, on the shaders or whatever. Let's see. The open world itself is seamless. You only load when dying, as far as I remember, which is also awesome. And the open world isn't something you explore really throughout main missions, and there are times where if you try to go off the path, it will fail you on the mission. It reminds me a little of Anthem in that sense, a little bit, because there was the difference between mission mode. When you're following the story, you would get, like, you couldn't go out of bounds or whatever. You had to stick to the story path, and then there was free play where you could just go anywhere. That made me think of something else too, and I forget what it was. The loading. Damn it. Well, I'll just continue. The game is absolutely gorgeous. I think so. Anyway, I've seen people compare this to a PS3 game, and I'm like, dude, you. Anyways, so the game is gorgeous. The amount of detail is impressive, especially with how far you can see. The dense traffic is also pretty cool. Lots of traffic, pretty good. Of course, it's not constant, but there are plenty of times, especially in the middle of the city and all that, where there's just traffic everywhere, and it's pretty cool. The performance for me was mostly solid, even when alt-tabbing. That was the most noticeable thing, especially for a game with this, with the high-end graphics. So you can tell there's so much detail in this game. And usually games like this that have that much detail, when I alt-tab, they start to lag. They bog down, right? Like when I come back in, I have to wait for it to load a little bit, And in my performance, I can feel it if I'm in a browser, or I can feel that slight lag, right? This one was great. I alt-tabbed, couldn't even tell. Like, I was like, whoa, like what? Anyways, I play with the graphics maxed out in 1080p with a 60 FPS limit. Yeah, I haven't done much 4K playing. I can, but one of the first things I noticed 4K gaming, because my computer can do it. It can do it, but it seems to me ahead of its time, kind of, in a way. For me, anyways. I don't have like the newest thing, but I have a pretty damn good PC. And while there are games, like I played Lost Ark for a bit in 4K, the main reason I switched back to 1080p is just so I could upload screenshots easier, because 4K screenshots are a pain in the ass to upload. I don't know if you know that, but they're a pain in the ass to upload. So that's one of the main reasons why I switched to 1080p. It's like, to me, from what I've seen in most games, 4K is like the difference between if you ever change the shadow settings, graphics shadows, because shadows add a lot of detail depending on what setting you have it on. 4K makes me think it's kind of like switching from shadows from low to high or something. Like, so it is a noticeable difference, but it's not so drastic that you need it. But if you can run it normally, it's also kind of like playing 60 FPS or 120. I used to be fine playing games 30 frames per second, no problem, even 10. I had no problem with that. It was not a big deal. But once I got used to 60 frames per second, I was like, oh, I never want to go back, right? So I don't hate those or anything, and I would still play a game in 30 frames if I had to, but my preference would be 60 FPS. So I also can understand why people would prefer 4K, because it is better. It's just not like drastically better from what I've seen so far. And it is different depending on the game you're playing. It's the same with like ray tracing. Some games ray tracing, you can barely notice the difference if you enable it. That might be a bug or whatever. It might just be that their ray tracing isn't that great or whatever. But and other games ray tracing, you can easily tell like a massive difference. And not having ray tracing and having ray tracing on and stuff. Cyberpunk is one of them. The ray tracing is nuts, man. The amount of detail in ray tracing is extreme. And then Marvel Spider-Man as well. Ray tracing massively, noticeably different. Okay, to continue the bad. MindsEye does have some graphical issues with small glitches here and there, pop-ins, and what seems like anti-aliasing issues. I don't know the technical details, I just see the odd effects. I also do not use the AI settings that do dynamic changes and whatever. I have no interest in those. I like the idea that they can help, but I've never really experienced them helping, so I always disable them now. Because games are more and more now, right? Like everything's got this auto use AI to detect your settings in PC and this, and I have yet to ever experience that. I just now by default I just turn it off because I tried it on several games, couldn't tell the difference, and sometimes having it on made my performance worse. No, I'm for real, because I would turn it off and notice my performance was better. So that's, I just don't use the AI auto enhance stuff or whatever, because I just have not seen it actually work. Let's see, where am I? I had almost no major issues while playing the game. I have a pretty good PC though, 3080 Ti and an i9 something. I don't like to share the details because I'll likely never be able to afford something like that ever again, and I shouldn't have gotten it. Let's see, at first I didn't like the low amount of health I have in the game. Maybe it's not the amount of health, but how much damage is done. Either way, you can die very quickly, and I do prefer to be able to run and gun out in the open, but I also enjoy cover shooters like this as well. I had noted this as a bad thing just because it's not my preference or favorite style of health management. But yeah, it's fine. It's just, you do have low health. It's a cover shooter, so just don't be out in the open for too much, you know? There's no melee combat at all. This is probably the worst part about the game. It's not an extreme loss to me, but I do think it would have added a bit more depth and, of course, fun options for combat itself. It would have been especially better if you could have meleeed enemies around cover and such. So while I do not think melee is needed, it certainly is missed. There's no cover blind fire either, which kind of sucks. Blind fire is always fun to do. Like melee combat, it's not necessary, but it is missed. There's also no shoulder swap option either. And there's a lot of third-person shooter games. You might know them too. It happens in at least half of them. At least half of the third-person shooters I've played, anyways, don't have that shoulder swap, and it's really damn annoying. And the only way you can ever shoulder swap in the ones that don't have a manual one is to be like in cover on the certain side, you know, right? And that's the only time you can swap shoulders, because you can't manually do it. Enemy AI can be stupid sometimes, but overall it was decent, though. This isn't one of my bad notes, just because while the enemies were generally good, it's always noticeable when they act stupid and bad. Some of them even like to run backwards or into walls. Typical bug stuff and funny, but definitely can ruin immersion. Yeah, those always suck whenever the enemy's just standing there, just being dumb. That sucks no matter what in any game. But generally, overall, in the game, the AI was decent, pretty cool. Like, it was mostly felt like a good action game. As mentioned earlier, you cannot skip the cutscenes in MindsEye. That just plain sucks. It doesn't suck because I want to skip the story or anything. It sucks when you're forced to rewatch them after dying at certain checkpoints. I hope they patch an option to skip them in, and if they do, please remember to not leave the skip button prompt on the screen at all times. That is so nasty. You ever play those games, right, where it always has the skip cinematic button on the screen? It's like, no, get that off of there, man. Like it's also like bad HUDs on games that have like, oh my gosh, I was playing this Chrono Odyssey playtest and like almost half the screen is covered with the controls, like a mobile game where it's showing you which keys do what. I'm like, dude, why? But that's the thing now. Everybody went mobile gaming, so now mobile gaming is in console and PC, and it's just so gross. Anyways. The non-humanoid ground robots are lame, and I don't. There are two different non-humanoid robots, and I forget exactly the one that stands there. They're there at the beginning of the game, and then you don't encounter them as much later on. They're enemies, but they basically just stand there and don't move while shooting at you. I don't know if that's a bug or what. I would think so. They're boring to fight. There are a couple stealth missions where the pacing is too slow because the robots you have to avoid move extremely slowly. Like the stealth part itself was fine. It just took forever because the robots were snails. They could use a bit of pace adjustment. Some of the missions mid-game and closer to the end could use a little more balancing. Maybe it's just me, but there were a few missions that I had died anywhere from 5 to 10 times from stupid crap that was just annoying. I can't be more specific. They were just annoyingly harder for no obvious reason. And that was what I discovered. I had talked about before I started reading my reviews, that when I was in build mode, I'd noticed that there was a couple, like, well, at least one robot that was way deadlier than everything else in the game. Kind of like a boss, but not there are no bosses in the game that I can remember anyways. Maybe there was one. I forget. Anyways, not too big of a deal. I just would improve it if I could is all. Yeah, because I don't mind parts. Like, what was weird about that to me is I don't mind parts in games that are harder. It was just not, there was no way of telling why it would be harder or who I should prioritize. That was what made it kind of funky. It was like, I was like, who, like, how, what do I do here? Like, who am I supposed to kill first? You know, that kind of a thing. So it was just a little weird. The SMG seemingly does less damage than the pistol, so it's pretty much useless, and the only reason to use it is if I'm just in the mood to. The reload also seems a bit long for an SMG, so there's just no benefit at all to using it here. It's not a big deal because there's enough weapon variety to play with, but it doesn't make sense. Now, and the reason that stood out to me is because I like my preference in any action game is an SMG, just because I like the faster pace to it, faster feel, faster reload, faster bullets. Even though I always do know they usually do less damage no matter what. Like if you use an SMG, you're going to be pumping more bullets out. But I just like the faster pace to it. The cover system could use a little fixing when there's an L-shaped style of two pieces of cover right next to each other but are not connected. You do not naturally transition from one piece of cover to the next. You have to come out of cover and then go back into it to switch spots. This rarely happens, but it is very noticeable when it does. Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 times in my entire playthrough where that happened, but it was a note, so I was like, yeah, that kind of sucked. And it might have just been maybe I didn't see the prompt, or it was just a little weird, but I'd seen it a few times, and that's why I wrote it down. You are assigned. Oh, this is another bad one. This is like the no melee. This one's also pretty bad. You're assigned a main car as you play through the campaign, which means you're unable to get into any car at all. And I wrote a little bit more, but I don't want. It's whatever. You get one car, and it kind of sucks. It's an odd design choice to me. The cars that you do get to drive in the game are really nice, though. Until free roam car sucks. Free roam cars. I can't, like, I hadn't played like a bunch of free roam yet until after I beat it and stuff. And this review was after I beat it, and I hadn't done like a free roam thing or anything like that. I hadn't tried to build yet. So this is all just specific to the campaign itself. The car in free roam sucks balls. It's terrible, especially when you have like so many cool cars in the game, like super high-end like race cars and sports cars and whatever. Like it's so, and then they give you this one. I don't mind. The character is funny to me, the character you play as, but it would be cool if you could actually switch them and maybe switch from different presets or customize it or whatever, but yeah, not being able to get into any car is pretty. What's crazy about not being able to get in any car is it is possible in the game. When you build a mission, they call it arcs. They call it an arc. You build a mission. You get to decide which cars are usable. You can actually make every car usable if you want while you build a mission. So if you can do that while building a mission, clearly you can do that in the full main game, right? So for some reason they made it so maybe I can't help but think that was an oversight or something, because if you can do it in the build mode for like a mission that you're making, why wouldn't they just allow it for the full game? It's strange. It's strange. Yeah. Okay, and this one, I didn't know much about the score system. When I need to go through my review and kind of readjust this one into the good section instead of the bad, because when I first encountered the score system, it seemed kind of pointless. But I liked the global time thing. Like there's a time completion for these missions, and it's not a lot of missions. There's a few missions where it does time completion. And I because they call it a score thing, I assumed there was more to the score, but there's not. It's just time completion. So I need to fix my review and update that paragraph for it, but I just haven't. I'm like, eh. But yeah, so there's a global time leaderboard for beating submissions, and it works for both the racing and there's some combat missions, and I like it for the racing because as far as I can tell, there's no cheating for the racing part, but for the combat time completions, I've seen this in other games. It's not common, but I've seen it in some other games too. I can't remember the last one I played where it did this, but I know it's in other games too. But for the combat missions, the time leaderboard, time completion, is just you getting to the end of the level, how quickly you get there. So you can skip enemies. You can run past them as long as you don't die. You can just run past enemies and just run straight to the end of the mission and complete it. So it's basically just a foot race. You don't actually fight. I don't like that. I think it needs to be fixed and updated so that you have to complete a certain amount of kills to actually complete that thing. And they should if they do that, if they fix that up and make it so that you actually have to get the kills to finish the mission. Reset the time, the global time completions, man. You would have to, and I did that as a test too, because I actually came in third on one of them. I did it just to see, because I was like, why? How did these guys get through here so fast? They must have just ran through it, right? And so I tested it myself, and I was like, oh yeah, you just run straight to the end. And it might be different for different missions. Like some of them might force you to get kills. I only tried a couple, and I just raced straight to the end. But that's the on foot combat one. So I was like, that needs to be fixed. But I do like that they have a global time completion thing. That's pretty neat. Let's see. I hope players will use the build feature, which is sadly only available on PC. I'm planning to give it a try, but I don't know how attached I'll get to it. Depending on how that goes, I may be back to write about it. I've already gotten some notes and stuff that I've been doing while I was doing build mode. But like I said, I'm waiting. Right now, I'm kind of I'm taking a break and playing some other stuff too as well. I have already started a new playthrough, but I'm trying to wait and see if they fix it, if we get a little bit of updates. I might just go back in. I thought about it. I was like, you know what? Instead of waiting for updates, I just want to go make some missions anyways. But if they bug out on me and screw up, and I'm just like, But anyways, why was I saying that? Oh yeah, so I already have notes on a lot of cool stuff that's going on in build mode. So many cool things, but I have a few little negative things that could be updated and fixed. But it's cool though, it's really neat. I think they mentioned the build feature might be added to console platforms as well, but I don't remember for sure, and that would likely depend on how popular the game ends up being. As of now, the brainless trash sheeple of the internet have already killed it, right? What do you think? I love that the developers posted video tutorials for this feature, and apparently it's going to be a series. They have 2 videos out for like starter tutorial videos, but they also talk about, like, even in the second video they say we'll see you in the next video, but they don't have any new ones yet. So apparently it was going to be a continued series, and I hope they're still working on that. We'll see, more tutorials for doing the build stuff. The in-game tutorial for the build is okay. That's also what needs a little bit of fixing and updates on the descriptions and explanations, but it's cool. Like they have, it's a decent tutorial. I'm already stuck on one of the things because it doesn't explain a thing that I need to know to continue with. But I'll just experiment with it and skip that tutorial part, All right, so next category, general thoughts and feature requests. MindsEye being a cinematic experience does have quite a long story compared to a movie anyways. It is short for a video game at 12 to 15 hours, but it does have the potential for infinite replay value. And this is something that I believe. It doesn't mean I think it's going to actually happen. It has the potential for infinite replay value. Fortunately, the combat balance is mostly well done throughout the campaign. There's a lot of sitting around watching the story, but there's also plenty of action in between those cinematics. A lot of story dialogue is also done while driving. Those drives tend to be long enough to get the full dialogue out, so some thought went into that balance as well, which is cool to see. Or they got lucky. They might have just got lucky with the balance. A lot of games have the driving dialogue get cut off if you drive somewhere too fast for the dialogue to finish. I'm sure you've experienced that. Maybe, but I've experienced it a lot in a lot of games. That's why I'm like, other people have had to experience that too, right? Also, in a lot of games, I don't like hearing the story while driving because it can be distracting, depending on traffic and if there's any random enemies that decide to engage you. But because they clearly thought of this, I enjoy the driving parts with that dialogue. And to me, it just seems like they thought of it, but maybe they got lucky. Maybe they somehow got lucky that almost every single driving part, when you're doing the story parts and you're driving from point A to point B while they're talking and giving you the story and all that, or long enough for the dialogue to be completed, you know. I was easily noticeable. That's why I can't help but think that they did that on purpose, that they thought about it, you know. But maybe they got lucky, man. I don't know. There's an extra cosmetic skin available at the main screen, and it's a terrible one. It's a bad one. If you use a QR code, I can't stand this crap, man. At least give us an option that doesn't require a QR code. I'd rather use an email or something, you know. Just more of that forced 2030 agenda trash. Believe what you want. That agenda is real, and I linked to one of my videos talking about it. And has been in the works for our whole lives, and it will continue to 2050 and so on. Welcome to the new normal. Stop it, kill it with fire. Anyways, I won't be grabbing that stupid cosmetic as long as it forces a QR code scan. I don't like QR codes in general. Especially drives me nuts seeing it in video games, man. I'm like, are you really? But that's the normalization. That's the normalization. Put it in everything, force people to use it, and there's no avoiding it. And guess what? Now you don't have any other options. You never did, you know. Anyways, all right. So the actor from Severance, referring to Lumen Lights, made me laugh. That link is to my vlog about the ending of season 2 because I'm linking stuff. I just noted that because I thought it was funny, and I noticed it was the actor right away because I have enjoyed the show. I've talked about it in a few videos, I think. But yeah, so he's and they don't even like mention Severance or anything like that. It's just there's this one part where he's like, they're Lumen Lights, and it just made me laugh. I was like, there you go. There's the you know, the little hint at the show or whatever. And it's nothing. That's the only time like there's any kind of like hint that he's in the show or whatever. You know, I thought it was cool. It made me laugh. Let's see. It would be nice if MindsEye had more HUD options. We can only have it on or off, and even while it's off, the flying vehicles still show the longitude and latitude annoying bar things that I never have any care for. I never use them. I've never used those while I'm playing. Like, I don't know, maybe you do. I've never looked at them. I've never cared about the little, you know, those bars. I just look at what's in front of me on the screen, and that's how I fly around in a game and whatever, you know. And I hate how it covers the screen, man. It's ugly. Options to disable specifically the weapons or the drone abilities and other such things on the HUD would be nice to have. Yeah, because it's either on or off, except for when you fly. And that I would assume that's a bug type thing too, or an oversight. The very first thing I noticed when starting the game was that the campaign started right away without allowing me to adjust any game settings such as graphics, display, or audio. This is never a good experience. We should always be able to change these settings before starting the campaign. It would be nice if that could be patched in. I can understand the perspective of wanting to give the player an immediate gaming experience, but that's not going to work if someone can't lower the graphic settings and then the game can't load or function properly for them, as one example. And I remember I used to not really know about this kind of a thing for a while, because most of the time if you boot up a game, it'll run fine right away, right? But I had encountered, some years ago, I'd encountered these issues with some games where the game would automatically start and I couldn't change the settings and the game wouldn't run. It'd be super laggy. You had to sit there through 4 frames per second cinematics before you could get to a point where you could pause the game and change the settings. That's even if you did, right? So like, I actually love the feature of a game just starting right away, but it makes more sense to let people pick their settings first and adjust stuff. That just makes it's better that way is all. Along with the missing shoulder cam switch, which would be nice to have, a toggle aim option would be nice as well. I forgot there's no toggle aim. That's a preference. It's not needed. Just prefer to have it as an option. And it's not something I used to like many years ago. Now I like toggle aim. I didn't care about it a long time ago, but now I prefer it. I would also really love to see a photo mode added to this game. That would be awesome. There's no need for a new game plus since it already has the option to replay story missions, and there's no skill tree or anything. But I updated this with a little note. Again, I would have to redo the paragraphs and write it a little differently. And so instead of doing that, I just added a note. I might go back and refine it, but I don't think so. Your drone does get upgrades. So being able to replay the earlier missions with those unlocked would be cool, making me want like a new game plus type of thing. So not a major deal, but it would be cooler if when you're starting a new game, you keep those little tiny drone upgrades that you get. And they are noticeable. It's you don't need them, but they're noticeable, and it would be cool just to have them. Final thoughts. MindsEye can easily be viewed as a generic third-person shooter, but that doesn't mean it's not a good one. The only thing is funny. I mean, I've played many generic games, man, and it does, just because it's generic doesn't mean it's fun and entertaining. Not fun and entertaining, like it's fun. It's cool. This game is badass. The story is decent. The action is epic. The environments are pretty awesome. The graphics are beautifully detailed, and the music is really good. When we get into worth, it's going to come down to how much money you have, plain and simple. Are you poor, middle class, rich? That determines worth, nothing more. I do not enjoy spending $60 on a short game, but I also don't regret buying this game for that price. Yeah, it's epic, man. And the potential replay value is infinite in just this one game because of how it's designed and has the build mode. That's what I was talking about earlier. Like, it does have infinite potential. The popularity of it's been murdered, so I don't have I have expectations of it failing, and I don't want to see that. But I want to look forward to the future with this game, but I've seen the sheeplenet kill amazing games such as Anthem and Forspoken. I also enjoyed Redfall, but I wouldn't call it amazing, and for each of these I linked to my reviews. For Redfall, I just had some first impressions on it, didn't have a full review on it. I guess I'll leave out the next line. I want to say it, but I'll leave it out. I don't need to read it for the video. If you can read it in the review if you want. And I had it's funny. I had a comment recently on a different video asking what the sheeplenet was, because this is a new word that I made, and somebody else might have made it up. I don't know. I hadn't heard it before, and I've been referring to people as sheeple for a while, just angry and going at them and stuff. But I don't think it's because it's sheeple on the internet, so it's just sheeplenet. It's just funny to me. So I came up with that in my own. I've never heard it before. Okay, I'm not saying I made it up. Maybe I did. I would like to take credit because I've never heard it before. But people think similar things. I mean, somebody else might have said it too at some point. Anyways, I'd really love to see a sequel, but I also hope that this game somehow makes it past the brainless sheeplenet and continues to be an evolving world as planned, because it deserves it and it's awesome. I don't expect it. I just really like to see that happen. I would not be surprised if there were shady things going on behind the scenes when it comes to business and a toxic workplace or whatever, and that can suck, but that doesn't stop the game from being good. Leslie Benzies might be an asshole. I assume he is just because he's rich. You know what's hilarious about that? I forgot about this. These sheeple are so ignorant. They're spamming. I'm not even, look, man, look, it's just the truth. They're on the internet trashing this game. And then they talk about Leslie Benzies and they say they don't like her. Like, I knew Leslie was a dude, and I don't even know who that guy is. I never knew he was. I didn't know he worked on GTA. I didn't know who he was, man, until this game, and until like there was an interview with him, and that was the only time I found out about him. People in the GTA world that are huge fans, they know his name, right? I didn't know his name. I don't care. I mentioned that in my I can't wait for MindsEye videos. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't care. The game just looks really cool to me. So it's really funny to me to see a lot of comments trashing on the game talking about her. It's pretty damn funny, man. All right, anyways, where was I? That's funny. I assume he's an a-hole just because he's rich. That's it. That's all. I don't know, and I don't care. I like the game a lot. It's a new favorite, and most people are morons. Yeah, I think I had a couple extra notes to mention specifically for this video, but that was my review. Most of it, I left out like a couple lines. But yeah, so I liked the game, man. I thought it was cool. And I've, the comment. I've been removing comments from a recent video. Just at first I was like putting up with it, and I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll let them say their thing. But then I was just like, they're all wasting my time, and they're just dicks. So I just started deleting them. And what's this? Well, I have other reasons that makes me think it's funny. But anyways, one of the comments was like, oh, yeah, it was about my Steam ban. It was about my Steam ban. Recording spam. If you haven't seen my check out my video, another Steam community ban or whatever. Or don't. you know, whatever. But it's for like they banned me for spam. I wasn't spamming. I was not spamming. So some comment responded and said like, yeah, you deserved it for spamming, trying to get people to like this game or whatever. And I'm just like, I can't remember what. I had a point. There was something else related to that made me laugh. But whatever. It's just crazy the amount of hate, man. It's stupid, and it does remind me. It's the exact same thing for like Anthem, which you know had some issues, but the amount of hate was ridiculous. Forspoken, I just like, what the hell is Star Wars Outlaws even, man? Like, damn, like what? I don't know. It's weird to me. I don't understand it. I play these games. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is all this hate about, dude? It's crazy. Like, there are things I'll complain about. I have like complaints. I'll point out some stuff that's kind of crappy and lame or whatever. But like, these are not bad games. You're crazy. And like I said, you can easily tell people haven't played it, and they literally just repeat what others tell them. That's all they do. They don't know what they're talking about, man. And that's 99% of them. And you can, you know, think I'm wrong about it, but it is. It's 9 out of 10 of them. Probably, you know, practically 10 out of 10. It's just a bunch of stupid. Anyways. All right. That's my review. I'll talk to you later. Bye.